Hello, this presentation is about animal behaviour and welfare. Firstly, I will be comparing the social behaviours between elephants, wolves and dolphins. All of these are highly social animals. Elephants have a matriarchal in their herds, and their family units are normally 6 to 10 individuals, whereas wolves live in packs, and that involves their extended family, 5 to 10 members in each pack, some larger if there's an abundance of prey. Dolphins live in pods, that is 2 to 40 individuals, but if there's an abundance of food, they can form things called superpods, which is up to 1,000 individuals. The matriarch in a herd of elephants is the oldest, most dominant female, her daughters and their offspring. Wolves are led by a breeding pair of alphas, a female and male. The female is particularly the leader. Their offspring and unrelated individuals are also in the pack. The hierarchy is the alpha pair, then betas, then mid-ranking, then omegas. In dolphins, a pod is fission fusion. They can merge and split several times a day and associate with other groups of dolphins. An individual's personality is important in a pod. The bolder and the curious are often more central positions and have deeper and stronger bonds with other dolphins. This keeps the pods together and help them share information and locate feeding hotspots. Female elephants stay with the herd for life, and in dolphins, mothers and calves have a long-lasting relationship as the calf stays 3 to 6 years with the mother, and the dolphin will return to their mother or another female relative in the pod to raise their own offspring. This is a multi-generational group. Elephants have strong bonds in the matriarchy, which is important for the survival and well-being of the herd. The elephant in charge, she makes the decisions about the movement, the foraging, and the protection of the herd. She will use her knowledge of her age and what she's done before to find water supplies in dry seasons and make sure the young are safe. The alphas in the pack decide hunts, where they travel and where they rest. Alphas will always eat first after a kill to show the role they are, and lower wolves will show submission by lowering their heads, ears and tails when they try to apologize. A pod structure is important for mating and searching for food and defending. In elephant herds, the family units are the core group of the herd. Then there's bond groups. These, when their resources are limited, they will all split off into smaller groups, bond groups, for more survival. And clans are large gatherings of different bond groups and families that share a dry season home range. Male elephants leave their herds at the age of 12 to 15, and they roam alone or join close with other males to join a group that is quite loose, and the hierarchy is decided from the age and strength of the elephant. Lone wolves leave pack to find mates and to make their own territories. This isn't temporary, it's only temporary, these lone wolves, and it is quite risky. Male dolphins form alliances to help find mating partners, and their bond will last a long time. Elephants have cooperative behaviour. Adult females help raise and protect their calves, and the same with wolves. They will help each other raise their pups. They will also help to hunt and defend the pack. This will help them survive and succeed. Wolves also work together to take down prey that is sometimes larger than themselves. Elephants' social learning is when older elephants teach the younger ones the basic survival needs that they will need to know. In packs, wolves will transfer knowledge across generations about hunting, territory boundaries, and crucial surviving skills. Dolphins will seek connection with other species, whereas elephant and wolves don't really, but dolphins will with other species in the water and humans. Elephants will show empathy towards each other, engage in play with each other, and they can show mourning behaviours for their lost ones. Wolves also show care and for the injured and sick and mourning behaviours, and they will play well into their adulthood. Dolphins also play, and the young will often throw seaweed at each other in a form of play, and they also mourn. Elephants will use vocalizations, body language, and infrasonic rumbles to communicate with each other. Wolves' communication is very sophisticated. They vocalize, they use body communication and scent marking to communicate. They use this to plan activities, to bond more, and to solve conflict. The lower ones in the pack will touch the higher one's nose and lick them. Dolphins will communicate through physical contact, like rubbing, petting, and even hitting. Adults will play with their young. It is a multi-generational pod, and each dolphin has a unique whistle so they can understand each other and recognize each other, and they use this for activities and to tell each other about danger. Elephants will have long-lasting friendship and will recognize and remember each other after a long time, as the dolphins do that as well. Asian elephants have fluid social networks. This means the females of them are social butterflies and will often become friends with people who are with elephants that aren't related to them. In captivity and rescue settings, elephants will form close bonds with unrelated individuals. This shows their adaptability and their need for social connections. Trauma can affect them, so encouraging them to rehabilitate is very important. Wolves in captivity often try to escape and will escape. They can be aggressive or playful towards humans, depends on the experience they've had in the captivity. Dolphins, on the other hand, have a very bad time in their welfare in captivity. They often will circle around since they haven't got enough room to swim properly long parts, and they also show self-harm behaviours like banging their heads against the edge of the tank and biting stuff they shouldn't. This will hurt them. They also show aggression, which indicates their distress. Fixed action behaviours are initiative and unchangeable behaviours in animals. They are triggered by external stimuli. A common fixed action behaviour is the egg retrieval in grey-lag geese. This is triggered when the egg is outside the nest, and a behavioural sequence will then happen. Firstly, the goose will extend its neck. Secondly, it will use its bill to roll the egg towards the nest. And thirdly, it will keep doing this until the egg is safely at the nest. The key characteristics is that this is predictable, it is innate, which means it's generally genetically encoded into them. It's all or nothing, so they will complete the sequence no matter what. It's specific to the species, and it's a particular pattern to grey-lag geese, and it's automatic. This happens without them thinking or making a decision. It's without a thought. This fixed action pattern is a survival mechanism to protect the egg and their species. It helps them keep the egg safe from predators and the environment. Geese will sometimes think golf balls or other objects like that are the egg and will do it with that. This shows there's the strength of protecting but also limitation of not realizing if it's an egg or not. And sometimes the geese will prefer larger egg-like objects over their eggs. This is called a supernormal stimuli. They will always respond this way, and it's in their fixed nature. This behavior is controlled by specific circuits in the brain that activate when they see the egg away from the nest. It is a quick and consistent response. It shows the interplay between genetics, the environment they are in, and the behavior in the animal kingdom. Three methods of communication is vocalization, which is the sound of an animal makes. It is like a bird's song or a whale's call or a bark or a croak. The strengths of these is that it can travel long distances at any time, day or night, in any weather condition. It can convey complex information to each other, and depending on the vocalization of each animal depends what message are capable of being sent though. A weakness of this is that it can be intercepted by prey when they are talking, and if the environment noise is loud, it's hard to hear each other. For example, when a bird does its song when it's trying to attract a mate. Next up is body language, another method of communication. This is either can be their posture, their facial expressions, or gestures they show. These can be through tail movements, wing displays, and colour changes. The strengths of this is that it can be displayed specific information, and it can be a complex interaction. The weakness is that it is limited by visibility, and the night can mess with this, or fogginess. For example, body language and communicate is a peacock fanning its tail for mating. Chemical substance signals is another one. This is chemical substances that is given out by an animal. For example, urine when they pee for territory, the pheromones by insects to create trails. The strength is that it can travel long distances and survive in environments, and it's a long-range communication, but the weakness is that it can be a slower transmission, and conversations and information can take a while to get to each other, and it is less precise than the other two. For example, this can be dogs marking their territory. Pair bonding is what leads to a long-term relationship and raising their children together, their offspring. They share parental care, and their offspring is more likely to survive. The rates are higher, and it will enhance the defense for each other, and the territory maintenance will be up. This is a form of monogamy. It has companionship in there to help each other, and they support each other. For example, California condors, they do this all year round. They are together helping with defending, feeding, and childcare. Courtship is when animals assess out potential partners. They often display fitness, their genetic capability to one each other. They reduce interspecies mating. They see if they are synchronized reproduction readiness to see if they link up together. They can show this through visual, audible, or chemical signals. They can see the health, age, and genetic quality of each other. For example, a crowned eagle will often do aerial displays by diving and climbing, and if the female decides that she likes this, she will join in and they lock talons mid-air to do a cartwheel. Mating is the reproduction of offsprings. This strengthens a bond between the animals. This can be monogamy, polyamory, or promiscuity. For example, a chili child fish, this is their only temporary monogamy, as the female will leave to look after the egg by herself. These behaviours are caused by oxytocin, dopamine, and vasopressin in the brain. The 5 welfare needs, or 5 freedoms, are important for animal welfare. The 5 welfare needs are: first, need for suitable environment, like the shelter, the space they have, the place they rest, and if they can hide from prey. The second is the need for suitable diet, a clean water supply to make sure they're fit and healthy, and the right nutritions that they need. 3, the need to exhibit normal behavior patterns. This will naturally occur if they're in a good welfare place. 4, need for appropriate companionship. Depending on the species, this is either with others or alone. 5, to be protected from pain, suffering, injury, and disease. This is so they can be protected and they have access to veterinary care. Animal Welfare Act 2006 is a legal duty that anyone working with animals or has animals must follow for this. The 5 domains for this are nutrition, environment, health, behavior, and mental state. Depending on the social groups or solidarity, you must keep to it to make less stress. You need to understand the behaviors of the animals, depending if they're wild or domesticated, to know how to care for their welfare. Zoos have to follow important rules because zoos take the physical health important. They need to have medication and vets and nutrition to support the animal's immune system. They need to look after the animal's mental health, and they need to meet the animal's social needs. Like wild ones would have in the wild, they need to make things happen like that. They need to allow natural breeding as much as possible. The space in the enclosure and environment must be like how they would be in the wild, and they need to change the setting by adding new scents, noises, and objects, and they need to hide food for enrichment and foraging, which is a wild thing. The staff must be trained in specific needs and follow the legislation. In science research institutions, there needs to be humane treatment towards the animals. There's 3 R's: replacement, reduction, and refinement. Replacement is if there's any alternatives, use them whenever possible. Reduction is minimizing the amount of animals that are used in researches. Refinement, you need to improve procedures and make the suffering for the animal less and look after their welfare. The research needs to be approved by an ethic committee or a institutional review board, and they need to justify why they need this animal for the research, and that there is no other way to complete this research. They need to follow the Animals Scientific Procedures Act and need licenses to do this. The way they keep the animals while doing this research needs to be species specific. Their housing and care needs to be catered to them. They need to have a good nutrition diet and a vet there to look after them. They need to be able to allow to do their natural behaviours, so staff get trained and report their research on the animals, and adjustments can be made if needed. In participation in sports, it needs to be ethical and the treatment needs to be well, and the sport needs to be justified for them to use animals in it. The animal needs a positive experience. They need to have no risk. Their living conditions need to be good. And they need to have no risk of injury. But this doesn't always happen. Like in horse racing and greyhound racing, they are often confined with harsh treatment, harsh training, and they can often be euthanized or slaughtered when they aren't performing well. This has brought ethical questions up, as this can have physical and psychological distress towards the horses and greyhounds. The horses are often isolated, which is hard for them because they normally are in a herd, and greyhounds are often lonely in kennels and left alone. The public is evolving and is trying to get strict regulations on these. They think the people who own them need to be held accountable, and some people have been campaigning about this, and there's also campaigning about bullfighting and rodeos, which can be blood sports, and they think that they need to respect the animal rights. Animal welfare legislations are important in modern society. They protect the animals from cruelty, neglect, and suffering. It makes the owners responsible for the welfare of the animal in farming, in research, and domestic animals. They have clear laws and are updated when needed. You can be prosecuted if you do not follow these legislations. They also help control disease in farm animals, and they work together for a global approach. The Animal Welfare Act of 2006 is an act for Wales and England, and it covers the 5 welfare needs. Pet Animal Act 1951, which was amended in 1983, is the act that pet shop owners are licensed and have to follow. Animal Boarding Establishments Act 1963 are for when people are boarding cat and dogs, and their rules and license that they need for that. The Breeding and Sales of Dogs Act 1999 is where you can get a license for breeding. Is when you have to follow if you have a license for breeding when you breed 5 or more litters a year. Welfare of farm animals, England Regulation 2007, is for the welfare of farm animals. Different Species Code of Practice is for the welfare of horses, ponies, donkeys, and their hybrids. And the Council Regulation 1/2005/EC is the regulation they have to follow when they transport any animal. The roles and responsibilities of RSPCA is that they investigate cruelty complaints they've been given about animals. If needed, they provide animal rescue services. They have no official enforcement powers, but do work with some, like the police. They will rehabilitate and rehome dogs. Sometimes, pets, not just dogs. Sometimes the pets might have trauma and be a bit difficult, so that's why they rehabilitate them. They also educate the public on how to look after animals and then campaign for changes in laws and policies to protect these animals. They are campaigning to ban live exports and in providing conditioners for broiler chickens. Local authorities are in charge of licensing activities involving animals like dog breeding, pet shops, animal boarding, riding, establishments and zoos. They enforce animal welfare laws for pets and equines. They appoint an animal welfare officer to inspect premises, issue licenses and enforce these rules. They are in charge of getting stray dogs either and returning them home or giving them to a shelter, and they deal with dangerous dog issues. They give out advice and educate you on being a pet owner, and they work with other organisations for this, and they monitor the welfare of animals. The Royal Society of the Protected of Birds have impacted on conservation effects across the UK. By nature reserves in England, the habitats are rare and special wildlife. They reserve this, like for abracats and spoonbills. Landscape scale conservation, they restore the Welsh rainforest for birds like pied flycatcher, wood warblers and red starters. They do species protection like white-stringed eagles and red knights in Scotland. They are protecting them. They do partnership work with farmers and landowners and other conservation organisations to protect habitats and help threatened species. Like breeding successful curlews in Northern Ireland, their policy influence is important for a positive change of nature. The National Trust have heritage site protection, which they protect historical sites and cultural heritage from climate change. They're doing climate change adaptation, developing ways to help historical sites and climate hazards and stop climate hazards such as flooding and heat to destroy these sites. They do research and enterprise, and they share this with other heritage organisations. Consistent approach development, they understand and address climate risks to heritage sites. Wider sector impact, they're hoping that they influence other conservation practices beyond their own sites and help each other. Both of these are impactful in their areas. They work to influence policies and protect the birds and wildlife. They preserve and adapt culture and historical heritages. Thank you for listening to my presentation about animal welfare and behaviours.